Well, hello. Welcome back to the Zeus and Tom show. I'm Zeus.
Blast from the past.
This is Tom. Okay, all jokes aside, this is the Friends of Zeus podcast, minus a lot of the friends. Episode 94. Did I nail it?
Yeah. Surprise.
Yeah, so tonight we wanted to take a step away from the American politics, and I wanted to talk about what's going on in Mahabad. I think I said that right?
Mahabad.
Yeah, it's a region in Iran that is heavily Kurd oriented, I guess you could say. There's what sounds like just this side of genocide going on. So to give you a background, there's this woman, Mahsa Amini, who was, I guess, walking around in public without her hijab on, and she was taken away by, I'm assuming, don't quote me on it, but by the police or some authoritarian position.
Yeah,
And
they have what they call the morality police,
yes,
believe it
morality.
or not, which is something that's creeping in here in the US. So you better watch out.
It's far more brazen there. And you know, that is the nature of that region, and that's not to diminish them or say that's wrong or right. They've been living that way for ever. So who am I to say that, you know, that's wrong?
Well, just quickly, I wouldn't say, I mean, remember the Shah of Iran?
Yeah.
Like in the 70s. So they weren't doing this like up until the Shah got kicked out and the Ayatollah took over. It was basically like a revolution.
Yeah.
From more of a religious zealotry sort of government that took over and kicked the Shah out.
And I was shocked. I thought that Ayatollah Khomeini, who was the guy that was trying to get the Shah back into Iran so they could probably
execute him.
Yeah.
Right.
He's still alive and kicking. Looks young.
And I think he's a different guy, right?
It's
The
Ayatollah.
current Ayatollah, no, the leader today is the Ayatollah Ali Khomeini. It's a
so
different
maybe
guy.
it's a different one.
Yeah,
Okay.
he didn't drink find the fountain of youth or anything.
Okay.
This is
Well, you could see. But you could see. I'm not well versed in the leaders of Iran. But I did think that was interesting. So okay, good. Because I could have sworn I thought that guy died a few years back.
I think Ayatollah is just the title.
Okay, fair enough.
Kind of like the Ayatollah of rock and roller.
Right, exactly. So anyway,
Chris Jericho.
She dies by less than scrupulous means. They even tried to post a video that showed that she like died in the middle of a meeting or something. But it didn't look terribly
government not, unusual, but the government's been lying a lot. If they were like Pinocchio, the nose would be like a mile long. But they try to say that she died from that it wasn't from them beating her to death.
Like a pre-existing condition.
Right, which is just BS. They've been making up, and then when the protests broke out, and we'll go through all this, but they tried to say that it was from militant factions that were causing it, and the militant factions were like, "No, we weren't there. We didn't do anything. We had no part of this."
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like one story after another. That just typical dictatorship.
It's alarming, and let me preface the show with we are not nearly as well versed as we probably should be in how Middle Eastern politics and social justice, I guess, work. But what I'm seeing is kind of well. So here's what's going on right now. Let me go there. She dies, and all these women start coming out without hijabs. and they're protesting. And is it the Republican Guard?
The Revolutionary Guard.
Revolutionary Guard. They have
I think the Republican Guard is in Iraq. That was the one we fought there.
Beat their asses. But so they're like going in and not doing like pepper balls or bean bags.
There was some tear gas at the beginnings, but you're right. It escalated quickly.
Yes, they're firing live ammo. There's reports that they're using like 50 cows. That is not a let's calm down thing at all. It's we're going to get rid of this problem as quickly as possible. So anyway, it reminds me a lot of, do you remember, maybe it was 5-6 years ago, I want to say they call it Arab Spring, when there was a lot of protests.
Yeah, no, not 5. That was George W. Bush during his presidency. That's one of the things I thought he was going to be remembered for. But
yeah, because it was uplifting. It seemed like there was going to be more of a, and I think it has actually followed through. I don't think our relations with Iran are nearly as bad as they were.
I think the embers are still there, obviously.
Of the
Arab Spring, yeah.
And I think, I mean, for what it's worth, this is kind of like a sexual revolution meets like social revolution in Iran. And I mean, this isn't what I've been talking about over and over, where you're going to have this wall of bodies that have to get taken down unjustly so that we react and we do something about it. But this is for them exactly what I was saying.
A little bit.
And Jack always says, storm the nest, which I don't really get that, because I'm not talking about like storming a nest. I'm saying that we need something that inspires us to invest in change. And for them, it seems like this is it. It seems, and the Kurds have been, I mean, anytime you hear about the Kurds, it's how they've been brutalized in one way or another. Saddam Hussein dropped chemical.
Weapons of mass destruction were used on the Kurds by Saddam Hussein. The chemical weapons, barrels and barrels and barrels of chemical weapons, just killed like entire villages.
Yeah, and I feel for them. I'm not saying that they remind me in some weird way of like they're like the modern day Jews, in that it's this large group of people that's displaced. They're spread around 4 countries. I think it's Syria, Iran, Iraq, and Turkey.
Yes. Yeah.
And so what happened was, I want to say, don't quote me on this, I want to say it was like 1920. Or maybe right after World War II. It might have been right after World War II. But we were like, they set stuff into the treaties that were going on that said, we're going to give you a little plot of land. Not unlike the Gaza Strip, Israel, but they didn't. For whatever reason, they just decided not to honor what they said. And that's on us. That's on the U.S. Because we were most likely leading a lot of that.
No, it was, I think Britain was leading that. And yeah, you're right. It did date back to the early 1900s, and then a little bit more post-World War II with the Israel area.
I don't know a lot about the Kurds, but I did do some research, and they seem to be multi-religious, multicultural. I'm assuming mostly Muslim, but there is Christianity and a few other fringe religions that are mixed in there. They sound like a intriguing people, and that often does draw a lot of
draws the ire of all of the religious zealots over there.
Interesting on our watch.
Now, this girl here, just so everybody's clear on it, Mahsa Amini. So she's a 22-year-old Kurd. So she was Kurdish. I don't know if you caught that bit.
Yeah.
But so she got killed, and that kind of sparked. That's why the Kurd area is kind of a focal point of all this.
I believe where they're at, Mahabad, is like, I think they also call that area Kurdistan. Like, but it's a name, it's an in name only. Like
Right.
they don't have a home. Again, very much like, Israel. Like we, but they got a home. That's the
Right.
difference.
Think of Poland at the like we're familiar with. Poland's gone on and off the map countless times throughout history. Like there would be
Poland,
certain periods of history where Poland would not exist.
yes, there was one year,
Right.
it wasn't very far back, where like for a year Poland didn't exist. It was like
Right.
Latveria. Is it Latveria? I want to say it's Latveria.
Latvia.
Latvia, where that was Poland, but they gave it back. I don't know how it happened, but
Yeah.
I
I mean, it
sure.
just kind of came and went, and it's there now, and that's maybe Kurdistan is kind of like that.
But so like there's parallels to what's going on here, like you said, like thought police. And I it was funny. I was on TikTok and it was like Mahabad, there's genocide going on there, and then I started looking into it and I was like, oh my God, we got to talk about this, because it just seems
It's
like
crazy.
it's an oppressive place that they're in right now, and they're fighting. And God bless them, man. God bless you for fighting. Listen, even if
Yeah.
you're wrong, if you're fighting for your principles, that's something. Like here with Democrats and Republicans, I don't necessarily disagree with all democratic principles, but they're outweighing everything that's going on. So I like to think that I'd like to have it more in the middle, where people are fighting and keeping each other honest. But now it's just like, I mean, if you were to tell me tomorrow that Republicans are getting dragged in the street and shot in the head, I don't think that will happen, but I wouldn't be terribly surprised. The world is very shady.
Right. And there's a lot of people on the left that support political violence. You hear that a lot, especially from Antifa when they like interview. It's like, do you support political violence? They're like, yes. So I mean, there's people that are willing to do that sort of stuff, to be the boots on the ground.
Yeah, not to get too far away from it, but January 6th is a big one. But people seem to forget that when Trump got the presidency, Antifa was running the streets, throwing trash cans through Starbucks windows. It was
Hmm.
just political violence all over the place. So yeah, but
And before January, I mean, all of 2020, there was that was political violence. A lot of that, burning down buildings and attacking,
yeah,
government buildings. And
I would actually say, since Trump got the presidency, which is another reason why I'm not exactly geared for him to be president. I mean, would I take him over Biden at this point? I'd suffer through it, but I don't want it, you know. But anyway, to get back to the point, the parallels are like shocking. Like, but we're talking about a country that deals with things a whole different way.
this is
Don't
a dictatorship, basically.
Yeah, I don't agree with what they're doing. But I also haven't lived there. I don't know how life is there. I think gangland violence is a laughing stock compared to what goes there. I'm sure AKs are going off all the time because two groups don't get along. But anyway, I feel like this is a really, again, it's that wall of bodies that's going up against something that's evil and oppressive, and they're not sitting there and taking it any longer.
I think so. And I think it's long overdue. I mean, this is ridiculous. And I'm kind of torn when we think about this, but I mean, my initial thoughts when I see the women with the hijabs and even worse, the burqas, which is just overkill, the
Yeah.
ones that are wearing the burqas, but it's just, it's religion run amok is what it is. And they're just trying to
And
force women to cover up. And it's just ridiculous. So it's long overdue.
it's sexual oppression. It's honestly what it comes down to for me. If you were to ask my like putting on my psych hat, I would say that it is misogynistic on levels that we don't see here because we have much more freedoms. But they don't want your hair to show because you might have beautiful hair that might attract them.
Right.
That might no, I mean
No, this is all about the men.
it's funny, but
It's not about the women.
yeah, this is I mean, again,
You got to cover yourself basically from head to toe because the men don't trust themselves to be able to control themselves.
in the 1800s, if a woman showed her ankles, that was considered provocative.
Right. That's what I was going to get to. So that's why I'm kind of torn with this because, I mean, they're only like 100 years behind us, basically, because we had the same thing where people were pretty much, you would always have like long sleeves. They'd always have like a bonnet on their head and like the dress all the way down to the ankles, like you said.
Yeah, it's not
So,
very
I
much,
mean,
not very different. But
although we had different reasons.
I'll argue your point about we're 100 years ahead of them because that's not right at all. Mesopotamia was like one of the first huge, what do you call it? Like empires. The Persian Empire.
Civilizations. Yeah, but no, I'm talking about the dress, the style, the dress style.
Ah, okay. But I feel like this is, and you know what, man? Women are powerful, man. This might be what breaks the back of the oppressors. That women, this is a sexual revolution more than anything, if you ask me, on a lot of levels. These women are standing out there without their hijabs, and I know enough Muslim people that like are loyal to the hijab and they wear it because it's the religious, it's the doctrine, it's what they do, and I'm like, cool, good on you.
It's not the doctrine though. I mean, it's not in the Quran.
More cultural than it is religious.
Yeah, it's dictated by the culture, I guess you would say, or just by men and power.
Fair enough, fair enough. But they do it, and that's fine if you want to do it. But to force a woman to do that, and worse, to kill a woman for not doing that, is appalling.
And it was normal if you catch them not wearing the hijab, you're allowed to just like beat them on the street and send them back home, and that was acceptable behavior.
Yeah, in the days of the Taliban, it was far worse than even that. They would, hang them from a light post. Like, it was brutal during that period. I I'm proud of these people that are fighting, going up against 50 cows, and that's not necessarily a fact that I can support, but the reports are, and their internet got cut off. They're in a blackout. So anything we're seeing is raw. Like, I sent you a video earlier, and it sounds like it's a little girl sitting in a building, just listening to gunshots go off and bomb or whatever, explosions all around. She's just,
it's chaos basically. There's nonstop gunfire, tear gas is going off. They shut down the internet. People are screaming. People are scared, obviously. Students are mainly leading the charge, not just women, but all students. And then it kind of spread over into the oil. So the workers at the oil production sites, they joined in, and they started protesting as well. So it's kind of like spreading and spreading. It'll be interesting to see where this goes, but I think this is the turning point. Hopefully this will find a way to stick.
And so, I mean, here's the part that makes me question that is, that the Muslim religion, and when you talk about the Quran, if you talk to anybody about the Quran, they will tell you that it's never been changed, maintain its integrity. But it's a powerful religion. It's the largest religion in the world, right? Muslim? I think it's
Is
bigger
it?
than Christianity. I mean,
Not sure.
it's got to be close, regardless. I mean, you got India, Pakistan, Asia. There, I mean, all countries have Muslim. Not all countries are necessarily Christian friendly. But anyway, it's an older religion. It's been passed on by word of mouth. Like people memorize it and pass it on. There's a lot of stoicism, pride in the religion. And funny thing is if you look at a lot of the, their tenets versus ours, they're not very different.
Hmm.
Do unto others, love thy neighbor, don't kill, but a lot of the same things. They even accept Jesus Christ. They just say that he's a person, which I don't know. Sure, he was. you know, he wasn't walking on earth spewing fire out of his fingertips or anything. He was probably just a person, and he was divine. But yeah. So I was watching a video earlier, and this is only started, I guess, not very long ago, like 5, 6 months.
September 16th was when Mahsa Amini died, and that started everything.
And then the protests started. So we're at November 12th or November 22nd. And now I think in the last like 2 weeks, I want to say over 200 people are dead, just protesters. And that's what they're reporting. They're saying that there's like secret, hidden places where they're burying the bodies, and that there's far more.
Yeah, I don't know how much stock to put into that, but I mean, for sure, and hundreds of people have died.
And a large portion of them are children. I want to say like of the 200, like 40 of them are kids.
That's kind of backfiring on the Iran government, because people are seeing these kids dying, and people are getting enraged about it, and that's leading even to more protesters.
Yeah, it's alarming that didn't like stunt everything. Like, okay, we got to take a step back, let them get the kids out.
It won't. I mean, you got to understand, it's in a authoritarian, rule. They're controlling the government. I mean, I'm sorry. Of course, they're controlling the press. So word isn't really getting out the way you might think that it's getting out. They're damping down a lot of this information.
Yeah, so like the videos that we are seeing are pretty brutal. They are one-sided. I tend to lean towards they're probably relatively accurate. Just seems to be the way things are when you get that hidden little piece of news floating around on the internet. It tends to be
I'm sure they're real,
Yeah. And it's alarming because some of the videos I saw was people like just walking down this. I mean, obviously they're protesting, but just going down, done, dead, donezo. It's frightening.
And we support. I mean, both of us support this, right? I mean, hey,
protesting.
Everybody take off your hijabs right now and never put them back on. That's what I say.
No, absolutely. Can I get another one? I firmly support women's rights. They, I mean, mother is the word for God on the lips and in the hearts of babes. I live by that. Without our women, we would just be a warring, killing world. We would just fight all the time. They soften us, the men. They and I don't mean that in a bad way. They bring our humanity back to us. And to tell a woman that she can't show her hair, because that's really what the hijab is just a bonnet.
You're not supposed to show your hair or your cleavage.
Oh,
and again, this is for men. It's got nothing to do with the women. It's for the men that don't think they can control themselves, or they don't trust their
it's almost a
wives.
testament to men's weakness.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And so I'm like, yeah, I'm 100% for fight to your dying breath. And unfortunately, that's probably what they're going to do, but it's going to make a mark. We're going to see it.
Yeah. Well, she Amini, I think she is a martyr already.
Oh, she's absolutely a martyr. 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And she's murdered for fashion police bullshit.
Right.
It saddens me to think that this woman, and so something I was thinking about. I'm gonna digress a little, but what about people with breathing disorders? With the burqas, are they forced to wear a burqa even though it affects their breathing and could kill them? Probably.
I think so. If they're going to leave the house, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be, even though you have breathing troubles, you could still be sexy, right?
Yeah.
So you can't
Tough
take that
boy.
chance.
Yeah, I mean, so what does that do? That forces them to stay at home. They don't go out as much. Again, kind of, I feel like there's COVID parallels. Like everybody was
Yeah.
No, I mean,
No, you're right.
Like for me, when I look at COVID, I look at all the ways that it limited us as a society. Stay at home, stand 5 to 6 feet away from people, don't talk to them because you could get them ill. I think in history is gonna reveal that COVID was I mean,
yeah,
but
don't get too deep into COVID here.
No,
Let's stay on Iran, I think, to be safe.
Fair enough. I feel like so much of what's going on in the world today, including Iran, is social experiments. What can we get away with versus what do we have to give up? And I think the Kurds are done giving up. I think we got to do in Israel with them and give them a place that they can call their homes. And it's going to be war torn. It's going to be brutal, but it'll be their land. It'll be where they live, where they do what they do.
No, we can't give it to them at this point. Those days are gone. If they want it, they're going to have to rise up and declare their own independence and fight for it. It's not something we can't do it for them at this point.
It's not a small community of people either. It's millions and millions of Kurds. It's and wherever they are, they're how do you put it? They were like, okay, it's cool to be a Kurd, but we're not going to give you any land. You're not gonna have anything to call your own, but we will allow you to survive as best you can. That's the way it seems.
But on one hand, and this is my dilemma with Palestine, because I always think, okay, why can't you live in one country together, indivisible, with liberty for all? Why do you have to have your own country? Why does Palestine need their own country and Israel needs their own country? Because I'm always against that racial segregation. But every president we've had, whether it's Obama or Clinton, they all come out and they say, no, we support racial segregation. We want the Palestinians to have their own country, racially segregated from the Jews who will live in Israel. And I'm always like, well, why can't, because Jews live all over the world, they live here. Why can't they live one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all? Why do they need a separate country? What?
I said, because that's a U.S. thing, liberty and justice.
But it can be for everybody.
No, I agree. No, I think
why racially segregate, and why can't the Kurds live in Iran and be equal to everybody else?
And to that note, I saw this movie. I want to say it was back when I was pursuing my psych degree, and it was talking about, it was like 20 years. There's like a 20-year space, Palestinians and Israelites, And these were all people that lived together in the same place, and knew each other, got along. I mean, there is commingling amongst these two groups. It showed them, like, 1970, and then it showed them in like 1990, and they still liked the same people. They, like they still communicated with the same people. It didn't bother them. Again, so much of what's going on in the world right now is the squeaky wheels are getting the oil. Like, I would question if the average Israelite hates the average Palestinian, and vice versa. I think the norm is people don't wake up and want to kill their neighbors. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, something, I mean, it's not fake news. We've seen it for decades and decades. The Palestinians throwing rocks at the Israeli army, and the Israelis shooting rubber bullets back at would look like, youngsters for the Palestinians.
Yeah,
and it's not fake news that that the Iran says death to Israel. I mean, that's just the way something's going on there. I would say it's more than just the government. If you're trying to say it's only the tops of the governments that are saying this stuff,
no. I would say it's the fringe groups. It's the.
But it's not small. There's a large contingent that thinks that way.
But there's also a large contingent that cross those borders all day long and don't kill the person next to them.
And that's what it should be. I mean, why not make that the law of the land? Okay, just everybody lives together.
I agree.
Because here in the U.S., do we have Palestinians here? Yes, we do. Do we have Jews here? Yes, we do. Do they throw rocks at each other? No, they don't. They live together in peace. Why can't they do that in Israel?
I firmly 100% concur. And again, so I think that this is where we're at in this region, at least. It's this much I'm sure of. It's a heavily Kurd populated area. And one video I saw was it's not Republican Guard, it's
Revolutionary Guard.
Revolutionary Guard driving down.
Republican Guard was in Iraq.
I know.
Kick their asses.
I'm gonna screw it up all the time.
This is just a circular conversation.
But they're driving. They're like driving down the streets and on motorcycles, shooting their guns off and shooting into houses.
What?
Yeah.
But this is with the Kurd. So in the Kurdish area, I guess they feel okay. We can just do whatever. It's like in the ghetto of Warsaw or something.
Yeah, it's like oh, they're just the Kurds. Nobody's gonna listen. But I think
Iran shot. Did they shoot? I think they shot some missiles into a Kurdish region in Iraq as part of this protest clampdown. They actually shot missiles into another country, and Iraq, I guess, hasn't complained about it because they feel the same way about the Kurds as well.
I don't know any Kurd. I do. I do know a Kurd, and she is wonderful. She's very kind. And she doesn't like to even talk about Iran. She's here. Got her sons recently divorced. Like, she's taking advantage of a lot of the freedoms that we provide here. And I'm not saying westernized is good or bad, but she's making her own choices.
No, I mean, the people come here because this country is greater. Iran is a horrible country, and America is a great country. That's why she came here.
Perhaps I'm not gonna say Iran's bad.
No, I'm saying that because it's true. Let's not deny the truth. I mean, she wouldn't be here if the U.S. was not great and Iran didn't suck. Obviously, Iran sucks. I mean, that's kind of clear by what we're seeing today.
I'd like to think that Iran's getting better, and then again,
If this,
unfortunately,
they've got a long way to go to get better.
well, like Arab Dawn, these things don't change overnight. It's going to take a while. So that was the beginning. And now this is another step. It's a paradigm shift,
It needs to
40,
be.
40
Hopefully,
years
this
from now.
triggers a shift.
Yeah, 40 years from now, we could be looking back at this and going, man, we were right. It's unfortunate, but they needed something to impress upon them that we cannot continue to have this injustice go on any longer. And
It's a spark, is what it is.
It doesn't have to be about hijabs. It has to be about freedoms.
Yeah.
And I know culturally again, I know that it is a very standard thing to wear the hijab or wear a burqa, but
it's oppression it's a symbol of oppression, I would say, at the same time.
yeah, at the soul of it, it is oppressing people based on my feeling very misogynistic tenets.
I mean, you can wear it if it goes on and on for so many years, you might lose sight of why you're wearing it, and it just becomes like, oh, it's just a traditional thing.
Exactly.
No, it's not. It's oppression.
It's like, why do we wear collared shirts? Because they are professional. They're they're a standard. But I mean, t-shirts are way more comfortable, and you can get funny logos on it.
Well, if you want to hide your tie, I guess.
Yeah, but maybe 20 years from now we'll be like, who wants to wear collared shirts anymore? I'm wearing the tight.
Right. I think we're pretty much there now.
There's no real logic to a collared shirt.
Now, but if we were required to wear the collared shirts, if you walked out your door without a collared shirt and you were just wearing a t-shirt and your neighbors beat you up because of that, that's different.
Bring it, bitches.
It's the collared shirt rebellion.
Yeah. Fuck collared shirts. But no, it's very valid. We are victims at time of our social cues. I am a t-shirt guy, but I've gotten the impression lately that I should be wearing more collared shirts, looking a little more professional. So
have you seen any good t-shirts that people should be looking out for?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have.
What is that?
That is the Friends of Zeus swag.
What is that gorgeous piece of fabric?
It's really good fabric, actually. It's fantastic. And then here's the other one. I kind of like this one because it says Foz, fuck broccoli.
When did we say that?
That's gotta be
what episode was that?
I don't know. I don't know how we'll find out. One of us is gonna have to go back and listen to them all. I'll bet Mike knows. Mike keeps notes on every show. I think that Mahsa Amini, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think that her martyrdom has only just begun. I'd like to think of her.
I would hope so.
I'd like to liken her to a Susan B. Anthony, if you want to use an American comparison, or Rosa Parks, somebody that didn't do what she was told and was made to suffer for it. And in this case, unfortunately, she passed away, or was murdered. I mean, we don't know. I'm assuming, based on the reports that we're seeing, that the video that have you seen the video? Do you know the video I'm talking about, where they show the lady like looked like a DMV or an AA meeting, but she just collapses on the ground? Did you see that?
Yeah.
And it's cleverly, it's far enough away that it could be anybody. It seems very choreographed. And again, I've said it before, that's going to be our next shirt, because it's got to be out there that There is no conspiracy, only choreography. You know, they found a video. They probably had it sitting waiting for a situation just like this where marks were checked. And it was a woman that could have been anybody, collapses. That could have been filmed in like 1980.
Right.
Isn't it? I'm going to digress a little. Isn't it interesting how we have all these eyewitness videos and they're always grainy and in black and white? When I mean, you can see the pores on my skin probably with the high definition that we have. And you can buy a high def camera for like nothing anymore. And yet all the video that we get, it's like just like grainy, black and white, sepia.
Right. Well, I mean, our phones are they're good for FaceTiming, but not for shooting. If you turn it around and face the street and you're trying to get a picture of something that's 40 yards away, you're not going to get crap on. So that's just the way the phones are.
But still, if this was 2022 in Iran, you're going to tell me that not a single woman in that room didn't have a fucking iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy?
But if they'd have pulled it out and started recording, they would have got beaten to death too, I think.
Exactly, because they shouldn't have phones. That's too much freedom. I don't have issue with the culture because it is their culture, and they are. A lot of people stay, and a lot of people are proud of where they're from. So you gotta give some credence to that. But the misogynistic viewpoints are where I do have issue. Again,
right. And you're right. I agree. No, I understand the pride. That's great. I love that. But I do take issue with the culture because it is oppressive. It's the religion has got too much of a hold on it, and we're guilty of the same thing when we've had the Spanish Inquisition. People were being burned at the stake and whatnot. So we've done the same BS. But they should. I mean, this is 2022. You should know better by this point.
Well, and if you wanna like find a parallel, look at the witch hunts back in the 1800s.
Right.
I feel like that was probably more of just a keep them in their place kind of situation. We're no different. We're just a little bit past where it is over there now. And even with the witch hunts, there's a lot of arguments nowadays that it was due to this spore, this fungus that was in a lot of what they ate and drank. So yes, they were screaming like banshees and acting like maniacs, but it was probably
yeah. I mean, maybe a tad of that, but I think it was mainly just the girls were just trying to get one over on people that they didn't like.
Yeah, the world is such a squirrely place, and hopefully, I really hope that this is the end of these kind of behaviors where people are simply expected. If you're expected to stay within the lines, you know what I mean? Don't color outside the lines because that's shady.
You would think so, but as we've been, the Friends of Zeus has been talking about this for the past year or more. We see this authoritarianism growing here inside the US, and it's scary, and it shouldn't be happening, but we see it more. It's a threat to democracy, as Biden would call it, but he is the threat. He's, it's ridiculous.
It's worldwide. It's just that it's most apparent to us because it's here. Our problems are bigger because they're our problems. You know what I mean? And this is a big sign that the problems are going on elsewhere. It might even open up some eyes here as to
Well,
to
I wouldn't diminish the problems. I mean, we're seeing things that correlate with 1984 and Animal Farm and
yeah.
censorship and political violence and the whole thing with COVID and the government control and the unions and the schools. It's just one thing after another. It's just growing and growing.
And I find it interesting, like, I'm sure that in the Middle East, or for instance, Iran to be specific, if the parents weren't allowed to walk into the schools, when their kid goes to school, it's probably, I don't know if this is even the case, but I would think that that would just be like, par for the course. Whereas here, I don't know about you, but my kids go to school and I drop them off at the door. They could be building bombs inside the school. No, I mean, I always make that
Right.
joke, but I mean, and I know I pull him up all the time, but Hitler Youth, man, they looked like Boy Scouts, and they were spewing
Mm-hmm.
hatred and vitriol. Um, I find it very bothersome that I
And there
can't
is some of
walk.
that indoctrination. We talked about it here. If you go back and watch our Bezmenov episode, there's indoctrination going on here in the schools still.
I find it bothersome here that I can't walk into my kid's school at any time. I don't need to walk down the halls. That's understandable because it's a disruption. And I want my kids to be learning and all that. But I do find it bothersome that I can't walk past a certain point into the school when I drop my kid off.
Well,
You
to be
know,
fair, you look like a homicidal maniac, so that might be the reason.
looks can be accurate. Yeah, I just I hope for them that this is the final line of bodies that are walking towards the machine guns and saying, hell no, I ain't gonna take no more.
It would be so nice. And I think I mean, ultimately, I don't know what your prediction is for where this is leading, but I don't see how this would go other than it would have to be an overthrow of the current Iranian regime.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I think that we have been getting along with Iran far more than we were 20 years ago. And we can probably point towards the Arab Spring where new, more progressive thought processes were there. Because I mean, for what it's worth, these women are taking off their hijabs and protesting. I don't think that if they thought that what is happening now was going to happen, that they would do it. I think it's self-preservation. Altruism only goes so far. But I think that is a sign that the Arab Spring had a positive effect and that they feel a little more liberated. Unfortunately, not as liberated as they would have hoped. And now people are dying, but they're still protesting. And goddamn, fucking go for it.
This is why we have this, and I'm sounding like ultra ultra conservative, but this is why you have the Second Amendment for this very reason. When the government starts firing tanks, when tanks start shooting at people, unarmed people, this is why you need the Second Amendment. Anybody that wants to do away with the Second Amendment, look at what's happening.
It's barbaric. I'm not gonna say that, all Iranians are bad, but the government is
probably
not
all. We're not saying, the old thing that, well, we love the people. It's just the government.
But that's across the board. It's not.
And I don't think we should say that because it's a lot. It's the religion mixed, and it's kind of ingrained in a lot of people. So it's widespread.
I think so much of what goes on, we we call it the religion, but it's really the culture. I'll give you a
Yeah.
little of my knowledge. So religion was originally for the rich and the privileged. It wasn't until in the Christian religion, it wasn't until St. Augustine or St. Aquinas, I think they call him also, introduced philosophy into religion. And it made it palatable for the less educated, if that makes any sense.
Why
So,
would you say that? I don't know that.
well,
Are
so
you saying that
religion,
just because only people that could read the Bibles?
essentially,
Because I think what's written in the Bible, I would not say that that's written for rich people.
well,
It's
no, but yes, but no, it's what you said that the
only
rich
rich people had access
only had
to
access
the
and
teaching, but the teachings are for. I would say that it's
for
the
everybody.
opposite, that they're actually for
No, the
the
teachings are
poor,
for
and
everybody,
the
but
meek shall inherit the earth and all that.
right, but the meek weren't getting the knowledge. They weren't getting the God word. They were just walking around
They're
being
a
told.
little too meek in the wallet. They couldn't.
And if you really think about it, religion is some mind-blowing shit, man. What, there's this huge guy that knows everything and he's everywhere and he controls everything we do. For the unhealthy and the unwashed, that's some pretty heavy shit. So Saint Aquinas comes along with the Christian religion, and philosophy is easier to digest than strict religion. So he brought philosophy into it and intermingled it with religion and made it easier for, again, the unclean and the unwashed to absorb and take in. Philosophy is all about theory and theologies, not a science, but a process in which to interpret the science. So in the Muslim religion, there was another guy. His name was Ibn Rushdi. He also goes by Al Farabi, and
It's
he
not
was,
Salman's brother, is it?
what's that?
That's not Salman's brother, is it?
No, he's not. No. That's a whole nother story.
It's a
But
different
so,
branch of the Rushdie tree.
right, so Ibn Rushdi was a Muslim philosopher, and he essentially did the same in the Muslim religion.
What year was that?
Oh God, like 1984. No, I'm just kidding. No,
But it's not in the
it's
Quran.
not in the Quran. He was a person that helped the unclean and the unwashed in the Muslim religion to absorb the Muslim religion in a different way.
Are you saying that
He
Augustine's philosophy is not in the Bible?
No, it's not.
I
Philosophy.
would say there's a lot of philosophy in the Bible, isn't there?
No, but this was like modern philosophy. 1800s we can definitely consider, or no, actually this is probably further back, but even like 1600s is still modern philosophy. Philosophy is still something that we toy with a great deal. We create a new philosophy anytime.
It's more where you come along and say, okay, Jonah wasn't really inside of a whale. That's
right.
just a metaphor for such and such and such.
Right. So what they did was they made it more palatable and they spread it out to the larger masses rather than just the rich and the privileged. And I forget where I was going with
I don't
this,
know.
but
I would believe the opposite. I would say that most religions are from the ground up.
right, they are
They cater
grassroots,
to the poor, I would say.
but they don't because the poor couldn't read. The poor were too busy being feudal, you know, feed my pigs, grow my wheat, make my food.
But they're the ones that need that
Right,
promise,
but
that
it
afterlife.
but it
Because
wasn't
if you're rich, you've already got it. But if you're poor, you're like, okay, why am I doing all this? Why am I working so hard? What's my
because
reward?
that's what you're
And
told.
then they say, well, it's after you die, you'll get your reward.
Yeah, but they didn't have that. I'm telling you, A
No,
client.
that's in the Bible from the beginning. What do you mean?
But but what I'm saying is that
I
the
know what you're saying. I
it wasn't
disagree with it. This is
delivered.
what I'm saying.
They didn't
I think
understand.
it was for the poor always.
It was, you're right, it was intended for them, but it wasn't delivered to them. The the religious doctrines were not made available to the poor. And that's where philosophy comes in. Philosophy allows you to kind of meta shit. God, I'm making it a modern term, but it made it more meta. It made it more common speak. People started, and then religion, maybe it was a bad thing because religion is now such a controlling factor in everything that's done in the world in one way, shape, or form. I'm not to say that religion is bad at any level. I'm religious myself.
Well, I think we
Um,
can admit that it is bad at some levels. I
well, I
mean,
mean, religion and politics, man.
Inquisition,
Yeah,
burning people at the stakes. There's
yeah.
been so many wars, the Crusades.
Well, all wars are started from love, money, or religion. Done.
Yeah, there you go. So that's one third of that.
Yeah, and it could be um it could be said that maybe that was the downfall of everything. We're spreading out this, especially if you're not religious, man, this is all nonsense that we shouldn't even be dealing with. If you're a non-religious person, if you're an atheist or even agnostic, you're like, man, I believe in a cosmic power, and that's where I end it. And who's to say that that's just what our little pea brains are taking in? Maybe it is just the cosmos. Thank you, sir. Maybe we're just giving it a name because it makes it easier to absorb. Because when you think of God, what do you think of? What's the first image that comes to mind?
First image,
Yeah,
Michelangelo.
right. Like white beard, white hair.
Right.
Why is he gonna age? You know what I mean? Like, I
Maybe
mean,
he was always like that.
and that's what I'm talking about, where the philosophy comes in. Is like we make things more palatable for our little brains. Like when we think about aliens coming to the earth, I don't think they're going to come here and kill us. I think they're coming to come here and enlighten us, and we're going to go, "Oh shit, you guys are God." Who knows? That's why I think even if aliens are on the planet, and even if we know, they're never going to let us know. Do you know how many suicides would happen just based on the fact that it was proven that like God was Zixelflorp from Flornflon? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how many
Right.
people just kill themselves because their whole dogma of their life was based in something that we just couldn't grasp at the time? You know what I
Right.
mean? Anyway, I think we've digressed quite a bit, but so yeah, what I was getting at, I guess, is that maybe they're not. I don't think they're far behind us. In fact, I think that they're parallel and they're just sticking to their guns a little more. And more power to you. If you're happy where you are and you want to live the life the way you do, that's fine. But where I tend to have a problem is when you force that upon others.
Right. That's
They're
the
going to go to
problem.
hell.
When there's no freedom, then it's a problem. If
Yeah.
you're forcing people to go along with your religion, then it's not really a religion anymore.
No, it's rules. It's
Right.
it's it's Republican versus Democrat. It's just it's abusive to the senses.
If your religion was true and, you know, attractive to people, then you shouldn't have to shoot them if they don't go along with your religion.
Well, I mean, and quite frankly, I know where I stand with God. And I'll say it right here. I believe my body is my temple. That's said in the Bible, which means that I dictate my conversations with God. I choose how I decide to interpret God's word. I personally think that if he is anything but kind and loving, then I'm not going to worry about fire and brimstone. I think my God says, lead a good life, be a good person, treat people kindly, and you can fuck up every once in a while, because to err is human, to forgive divine. So I think as long as you don't blaspheme, you don't, God is dead, blah, 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 all that stuff, I think you got a pretty good chance of making it over into the pearly gates.
Right. Does your God at any point say, you know, if you don't dress to my liking, I'm going to beat the crap out of you? Does your God say that?
No, but he also says, thou shalt not spill seed, you know, in thine bed, like basically don't jerk off. I don't think he cares. You know, I really don't think he cares. But if you go by the Catholic doctrine, man, you jerk off, you're going to hell. It's like, wow.
Is that I wasn't I wasn't familiar with that one.
I mean, I'm very much breaking it down, but my buddy,
is that a thing? Is that in the Bible?
It in so many words,
Okay.
not to those words, but basically, if you're,
I mean, I'm not down yet. I mean, maybe it is.
if
It
you're
could
not
be in there, but
you're not using your seed to impregnate a woman, you're doing something wrong. Which that's where the Christian religion, at least, I'm not gonna bring up my beliefs on the Quran and that it's never been changed in 10,000 years. I'm skeptical, but fine. I'd like to look into it further and be proven that that is correct. I'm not dismissing it or anything like that, but at least with the Bible, we've changed it like 16 times. Like,
oh yeah,
like literally chunks are taken out. Like, we've
yeah.
got forgotten. We've
King
got
James version is a version that's
King James.
highly edited. Let's say.
And that's only the one that we know of. I mean, and I've often said, we talk a lot on this show about the power of words, and if you remove an if from the middle of the Bible, it could change the meaning of so many things around it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So yeah, I just feel like, you know, if that is what makes them happy and they're truly happy and they want to wear their hijabs, that's fine. When you push that upon somebody else, I find that bothersome. And also, why shouldn't religion be allowed to be an evolutionary process as well? It doesn't mean that you're changing a religion. It means that you're changing how you take in that religion, how you interpret it.
Well, I mean, it just creates, I mean, look at Christianity. There's so many different versions of Christianity, you know, Catholic or Protestant, Lutheran, you know, Episcopalian. And every time you make that little change, Mormon, you know, every little change, it just creates a new faction. And then you got people that start arguing like, no, this is the true version of the Bible. No, our version is the true version. That's what you're going to end up with.
Well, I mean, yeah, look, I mean, geez, how many Christian, you know, it's only a religion if you get enough people. Otherwise, it's a sect or it's a cult.
It's a cult. Or it's just you.
Like Latter-day Saints, or we could do an episode on them. That would be a fun one. Latter-day Saints, Mormons.
You could start your own like Church of the Latter-day Seeds and just a bunch of guys jerking off.
Right, on a cracker. Circle. But yeah, no, I mean, I hope the best for the people that are fighting, because at the end of the day, everyone that dies from this over there was dying for what they believed in, I would like to think, except for the kids. And again, that just fucking drives me nuts. You know?
Yeah, you hate to see innocent people I mean, it's one thing to, if you storm the machine gun nest, to steal
Stop
your
using that
phrase.
term.
But if you choose to do it yourself, that's okay. But if an innocent child gets shot by the machine gun nest while you're storming it, that's not right.
Yeah, and that's what's happening right there now. I wish I would have brought my paperwork, but I want to say that since like Sunday, there's been like 200 deaths, and like 40 of them
Mhm.
are kids.
Yeah,
And that is like
no, that's right.
it's like weaponizing mortality. It's like that's why I think this is gonna stand out.
I
When
hope so.
one fourth of the people that are dying in this protesting are children, that that is alarming. And I think that is where, if the world is still what I hope it is, which is kind and thoughtful and caring on some level, I think this is why this one might stick out a little more. I don't think this is done by any stretch of the imagination.
I would really hope so. And
No, honestly,
I'd be pleasantly surprised if it did follow through and and Iran turns into a free, loving democracy. That would be fantastic. Obviously, it didn't work in Afghanistan when we were trying to instill it, where the Taliban just kind of came back like a rubber band and
wait,
snapped back into the Middle Ages with Afghanistan. So I don't know what's going to happen here. I think there's still a lot of people that are going to be fighting, just as many people that want to fight for this freedom with the hijabs. I think there's just as many people that want to fight to keep things the way they were.
well,
So,
again, I don't know if I've said this before on
and
the
they've
show.
got the tanks, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think I've said this before on the show, but we often look at 9/11 from this standpoint of they attacked us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for them, they're more like Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, R2D2, Luke fighting the Empire. We come into their country, we use their oil, we take all their stuff, and they're attacking us. Um, I'd like to I'd like to think that these guys, the Kurds, are a similar group of people, that they're done. They're just done. I mean, anytime you've heard Kurds in your entire life, have you ever heard a sunny, happy puppy dogs and sunshine story, or is it always that they're being
Only in the nursery rhymes.
right? Oh, Kurds and way. I
Yeah.
get no, but you know what I'm talking about. Anytime
But
we've
no,
ever
I would say, I mean, I love that analogy, but I don't know because I would say that it, it, this is not the evil empire.
no,
You know,
no, I think the Iran, the what guard is it? Revolutionary.
Revolutionary Guard. Even in
They're
their eyes,
they're the
they
empire.
know deep
Yeah,
down. It's
right,
like, it's like the Soviet Union having to build walls. They built walls around Russia, not so that people couldn't get in, but so that their own people couldn't get out. That's
right.
the difference.
Well, no,
And
I'm
that's
looking at
the Iranians, they know full well that America is better. It's freer, it's better. That's why they hate us.
well,
They hate us because we are free, that we're not
are we?
doing the same things that they're doing.
Um, I look at the Kurds as the small band of rebels that are fighting the empire, using the force, all that shit. That's what I'm saying. Um,
If you're saying Iran is the empire,
is the empire? Yes, they're the
okay,
empire.
not the United States.
Um, I'll go one step further and say, and this is going to be, I don't think controversial, but I kind of
Watch it.
hope, I kind of hope that it goes longer, because the longer it goes, the more people will be made aware of it. I don't want people to die. And even when I say those things about like the wall of bodies going up against the oppressive groups, it's not that I want it, it's that it's the only thing we have left that can snap us out of this complacency that where we just go, okay, it's not affecting me, so why do I care? But there's not a lot of people like you, me, Mike, Jack, Des, even Darcy, that actually can think outside the box and go, this shit is fucked up. We need to get involved now. And this is where America gets screwed up, because we turn into the world police. But I don't even know if that's so much the voice of the people.
Yeah,
that
I think we need to be careful there. Because if they're already accusing, the Iranian government is already accusing foreign governments of causing this, of fomenting unrest, as they say, which we're not. We had nothing to do with it. I don't think.
No, this
But
is
we need to be. We need to be very careful how we proceed, because we don't want this to turn into a them versus the United States situation. That's not really what the fight is about,
I don't think,
and it shouldn't be about
honestly,
that.
I don't think that this is world news on a level yet that everybody's on board. I actually think that we're going to get some hits on this, because the people that do want to know are gonna see Mahsa Amini, sorry, or damn it, what's the name of the country? Mahabad. They're gonna
Right.
take those in, and we're gonna be one of the, we're gonna be one of the ones that hits. And I think that for this show, considering that we don't have the other three stooges, we hit on some good points. This is a sexual revolution. I think more than anything, but a sexual revolution is huge. Half of us are one sex or the other. But I want to see this progress, hopefully with limited mortality. I don't count on that, but this may be one of those walls of bodies walking towards the guns that says, we're not going to take this shit anymore, and they overthrow their oppressors. Is it going to happen now? Maybe not, but this might be one step closer. This might be, 20 years from now. Hopefully we'll still be around podcasting about it, but 20 years from now, they'll say, you remember when? You remember Mahsa Amini and how she was taken down because she didn't have a wrap around her lovely black hair. You know what I mean? I don't.
I mean, because Arab Spring was like 20 years ago. And if this and this was like part two, and then 20 years from now, maybe they'll be able to take that next step. It could take quite a while, which would be unfortunate, but I'd like to see it progress a lot faster.
Most likely that is exactly how it's going to be. With the world, we just don't shift easy. This, however, will, I think, progress the shift drastically.
It's like each trilogy in Star Wars. It's about 20 years apart.
Yeah, and I mean, look at this. I'm looking at, I don't know if you see it on your screen, but I'm looking at this beautiful girl who should not have to hide her face or her hair. She should be able to walk around. I mean, fucking Adam and Eve were naked. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not saying we should all walk around naked. Trust me, you don't want to see that with me. But the point is like, why are we, what logic is there that says cover yourself up, hide as much of your inner beauty or your outer beauty as you possibly can, and just coast through life making the donuts? You know what I mean? I mean, again, I look at this girl, powerful cheekbones, beautiful lips, long black hair. She should not have died for taking her hat off. And I don't mean to diminish a hijab as calling it a hat, but why should she have died for that? If it's a thing and she's accepting of it and she was like, okay, I kind of made a foul, fine. But to die for not covering up your hair seems fucking ridiculous.
Right. Agreed.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I think we've been on long enough. I think it's about time to wrap this up.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.